Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the collaboration space from AVI-SPL. I'm Nancy Lucier. And today, in this episode, we're going to be sharing valuable insights for IT and creatives looking to enhance experiences in different types of spaces with projection and projection mapping. So if you're interested in that topic, stick around. We know that employees and customers today have heightened expectations when interacting in your physical spaces, and they anticipate environments that are not only functional, but very engaging. And we're kind of blurring the lines between personal and professional spaces. So we have that demand for high quality, visual appealing, and sophisticated environments. And we're driving organizations to innovate and elevate those physical spaces. So that's a lot to unpack. So I have some help with me today. Please join me in welcoming Chris Teguh from Epson. Chris, how are you today?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast today. I'm really excited to be here.
You're welcome. I appreciate your time. Can you tell our audience a little bit about what you do at Epson?
Sure. So I'm a product manager for our large venue commercial projection teams, kind of a mouthful, but basically my team manages all the commercial projectors at Epson between 5,000 lumen all the way up to 30,000 lumen. And I personally manage the fixed lens portion of high brightness. Those are typically PowerLite L. I also manage some of our software offerings like EPMC, which is a fleet management software, and EPPT, which is a installation support software for a single room with multiple projectors.
Okay, so a lot.
A lot, yeah, yeah,
And all things we could all use. So Chris, let's jump right in. And I talked about those expectations that everybody
yeah.
has in our spaces. How does that play into what Epson projectors and that technology and the upgrades and the new features that
Mhm.
you're focusing on today?
Yeah, so customer expectations are huge, right? Obviously, we're building to what our customer needs are. And over the last 10 years, those expectations have really exploded. I mean, 10 years ago, if I were to go out and buy a TV for my living room, a 65-inch would be huge. And today that's kind of a standard, right? And people who specify display technology, IT managers, they're all exposed to the same environment where they're able to go see a Van Gogh exhibit that's huge and immersive, and they're able to go to, a baseball game and see these large displays. So all of that kind of trickles down to needs and the ideas and inspiration they have for implementing their own type of technology for their own audience. So, of course, projection is uniquely suited to create large displays, and we're really proud of what we've done to kind of build technology to support those type of large scale display technologies.
So a lot of high performance technology to kind of really make that accessible to broader audiences.
That's right. So, Epson 3LCD technology is really a Epson core technology, and 3LCD really allows us to create very vivid, bright projection and at high resolution, right? So there's nothing worse than being in a large display environment and being able to see pixels or a dull image. So, you ask any manufacturer of projection in the world, and their best technology is typically three chip, and all of our devices are three chip. So those expectations trickle down to what we plan on investing in, increasing, image quality, increasing brightness, and all the little things to contribute to some of those, broad audiences, right? So we're trying to reduce total cost of ownership. We're making smaller projectors. The projectors that I manage, very high brightness, but only 20 pounds, right? So installation of projectors like that are very easy for a single person to do. And you're able to create really large scale images. So, um, you know, traditionally, a pro level projector that's interchangeable lens could cost you, tens, $20,000 per projector. In fixed lens projection, you're talking about 2,000 to 5,000. So we're really talking to a broader audience of artists who want to create their content on a large scale, and it's a lot more accessible these days.
So I think that lower price point does make it a little bit easier for everybody to put them in a lot of different spaces.
That's right. That's right.
And let's talk a little bit about installation and features, and maybe if you want to talk about specifically PowerLite. What
Yeah.
is it about them that makes them very user friendly? You mentioned installation could be fairly easy. What about when someone is using it?
Yeah, so UI, obviously we have a, very easy to use screen and menu structure that allows, it kind of gets out of the way when it comes down to it. Because at the end of the day, whatever the image you're trying to look at, you want the technology to kind of disappear and you really want the content to shine. And the UI aspect is one thing, but a lot of it is how we build it out so it's easy to install, right? So one of the small things that I like to point out is on our fixed lens projectors, our lens is in the center of the projector. That's not always true for a lot of projections. Sometimes it's offset, just depends on how they build the internal structure. And what does that mean for installation? When you're in a room and you want to center the projection in the room, let's say you had an offset lens and you put it right in the middle. Now you're using some of that lens shift to get it to the true middle, right? So with an Epson projector or PowerLite L, it's always going to be dead center on the projection. So as long as you have that centered, you can then use our lens shift to kind of shift left and right. We also have zoom technologies with all of our PowerLite Ls, lots of throw distance. So we can cover a lot of range with just a single platform of projection.
So it's always helpful if we have some standardization, right?
Yeah.
Specifically in projectors, makes it
Mhm.
easier to maintain. Talk to me a little bit about the maintenance. I liked how you mentioned the lens was in the middle, easy to
Yeah.
use. What about when it needs maintenance?
So maintenance, it's, our projectors, now they're all laser. They require little to no maintenance. We're talking about 20,000 hour light source life. Also, the filter can last 20,000 hours. So on the maintenance side, there's not really a lot to it. So when we talk about standardization, I like to think about standardization as really simplifying the experience and unifying the experience for the end user. So you talk about a class, school that has maybe like 25 teachers and it has like 25 rooms. If each of those rooms has a different technology that that teacher has to learn, it really gets cumbersome. They have to learn a new technology every time they get in that room. So for a school to be able to pick one projector that fits all the different applications they need to work on, it really simplifies the experience for the end user and the installer. They don't have to have different procedures and different workflows to get these projectors up. So a couple of things we improve on the standardization side along with the physical installation is also like NFC. We implemented NFC, which is an old technology, just means near field communication. But what that allows us to do is actually pull features, settings, and information from a projector, a single projector, without power plugged into it, onto an app. We call it the Epson configuration tool. And you can actually set the projector settings on the app and then push it to all the other projectors without even powering them on. So you can be in a storage room, you have 50 projectors, and instead of spending that time with the remote after you install it, choosing all the settings you need, you can do that right before you put it up, and it saves you a lot of time. And if you're talking about 50 to 100 projectors during the install, it really shaves a lot of time.
That could get time consuming, and I like that I don't have to go to every room and stand there and do that. That's awesome. So when we talk about designing a space and installation, there's a lot that can go into that. What are some of the technical consideration that Epson can help with when we're designing a room?
So, I mean, it's really three things I like to think about when it comes to the technical aspect of a projector. First, you have to think about the room, where the projector is going to live in the room. And that usually is defined by the throw distance, how far away from the screen, how big's the screen, how far away it's going to be. And that's going to define the throw distance, right? Once you've figured out the throw distance, you kind of figure out what's your aspect ratio of the screen. Is it going to be 21:9 for something super, ultra wide? Maybe it's a standard, 16:9, 16:10. That'll define where in the space the projector has to live, and then you can figure out which one you need. And then it's, considering brightness, right? So not all projectors are made the same. 20 years ago, all the projectors were about 1,000 lumen, and you had to turn off all the lights, you had to close all the windows. And today, it's not like that anymore, right? So if you have a room where you don't plan on having a meeting in the dark, you want lights on, you have windows in the room, you want something a little bit brighter. So all of those things kind of play into it. And I just threw out a bunch of little aspects. And of course, that is a little bit cumbersome, especially if you're not familiar with projection technology. So we also have things like our throw distance calculator from Epson.com, which allows you to, build out your space. You say how big the room is, how much brightness is in the room, and then you can pick what projector you're looking at, maybe change a lens if you're using interchangeable lens, and it tells you where the projector has to live, how big a screen it could be, what how much zoom you have. So it's a really powerful tool. And we also have TSRs. I don't know if you're familiar with our TSR team, but it's our technical sales reps, which are happy to help build out a system. Even if you're doing something complex like an immersive museum or something large scale, they can work with you to figure out what projectors you need, how big you can do, what your limitations are, and things like that. So we have a lot of tools to help people build out and specify systems.
Yeah, I like how you make it easier. I like the app you mentioned for throw distance, so I don't have to do math. That's always helpful. I'm a writer, so I don't have the complex math skills. So it's nice that you have that. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes, that link to
Okay,
that, to the
great.
show notes for everybody, so everybody can see that and have easy access to that. So you had mentioned, some needs for education. I want to talk about three different spaces, and let's start with meeting spaces. What can Epson projectors do for me in those spaces to enhance the experience of my end users?
Yeah, so in meeting space, it's kind of funny because obviously I work at Epson. We have a headquarters. We have meeting spaces, so we get firsthand experience about what display technology is like. And one of the growing kind of trends in meeting spaces is this thought of hybrid rooms and this growing need for wider aspect ratio projection. So typical fashion, 16:10 is a normal kind of projection aspect ratio. That's the aspect ratio of your computer, right? It just kind of shows up. But what happened is as you're starting to deal with hybrid meetings where you have attendees that are coming in remote, you have chat boxes that you need to put up on screen. Eventually, on a 16:10 aspect ratio, all that content during the meeting starts to crowd in on the content you're trying to share in that room. So that once that was like a 150-inch screen, your slides are now like 65-inch, right? So it becomes much smaller and hard to see. So and there's something else you're dealing with, which is the height of the room, right? The height of the room may be 8 feet. So with an 8 foot room and you have a 16:10 aspect ratio, you can only get so big before you start projecting onto the ceiling. So being able for Epson projectors to support 21:9, which makes it ultra wide, allows us to now fill in the spaces on the edge, like go further out towards the edges to put in the beautiful video of your attendees or the chat boxes, lets you use that middle space as the large, slideshow, right? So 21:9 is a big part of the meeting spaces, just getting brighter, honestly, because in corporate spaces, we want more windows, we want more light, we want to be able to, engage with people in a bright setting. So having a brighter projector allows that to happen.
Nice. I like how we can use the full width of the room
Right.
because, like you said, we do want to see everybody eye to eye. We want to see the chat. Even though we're talking to everybody, people are still chatting too
That's
and
right.
having other conversations. So that makes it really easy. Let's switch gears to immersive experiences, maybe education or even maybe a museum exhibit. How do projectors help me there?
So of course, projection again is uniquely suited for immersive applications, especially with rooms that are not, most rooms aren't just a big square, right? Having a big square makes it easy to put up a screen, but if you have any type of changes in the room where there's like architectural nuances to it, there's bends and corners and things like that. Projection allows you to lay out an image onto that and adjust in post, like mapping it around corners, mapping around architectural aspects like doors or windows and things like that, without having to really modify the building in itself. So Epson specifically, we provide tools like Pixeline Camera. Pixeline Camera is like an optional camera that you can attach to any of our high brightness projectors now, including our PowerLite Ls. And this little camera basically allows the projector to be somewhat self-aware. So it can see what it's projecting, compare it to another projector, and you can do you can do, techniques like you can do techniques like stacking or blending, which allows you to get some ultra wide projection or double up on brightness by stacking the pixels one for one, which has been done in the past manually, which takes a lot of time, but PowerLite L really takes those, workflows and reduces them to a matter of minutes, maybe 8 to 10 minutes. You take two projectors, you can blend them automatically, very simply. So in immersive applications where you're dealing with maybe 8 projectors, like this room is an immersive application with 8 rooms and, oh, sorry, 8 projectors. And we can use the camera to actually blend each of them very quickly so that we have a place where we can put our entire content on the wall. So Pixeline camera is a big part of that. And installation tools that we have like geometric correction. So you can manually go in and do like point correction and things like that. Really contributes to being able to fill a wall with an image.
So it sounds like that really opens itself up to a lot of different experiences.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about simulation then, taking that a
Yeah.
little bit further,
Hmm.
simulation maybe for sports or healthcare or military.
Yeah.
I know I've used a golf simulator. I keep trying to help my golf game. There's no helping it, but I know a lot of people like golf simulators and other things. Talk to me a little bit about simulation.
Yeah, simulation's, broad, and it kind of, branches off of immersive because you're talking about specific applications of an immersive setting. And we love golf simulation. Obviously, we work with some really big golf simulator companies like TrackMan, GolfZone, Foresight. But again, when it comes to projection, projection is very uniquely suited specifically for golf simulation. You're hitting a ball rocketing hundreds of miles an hour at a screen, and really, projection is uniquely suited for that because you can project an image onto a ballistic screen if you wanted to, right? So we're able to get a really large screen in that space. You can hit a ball at it without, thinking about cracking your LCD panel, right? But there's also other applications in simulation like Igloo, for example. Igloo is a company that creates immersive applications for use in meeting rooms. So we can, for example, I think one demo I saw was for real estate. You can have a room that is immersive. You have a desk in the middle, and you can look for a specific, address, and then the immersive room turns into the inside of that room, and you can kind of experience what that house looks like from the inside. So it's taking this idea of putting content on the wall and using it for simulating something more advanced. I mean, it could be golf sim, it could be real estate, it could be any type of sport actually as well. And what we love is that, projection, again, very suited for those types of applications.
Well, there is a lot that we can do with projection. So, Chris, thank you so much for sharing your insights and for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
And I hope to have you back again. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to follow AVI-SPL on YouTube so you never miss a video episode of the collaboration space. And you can also search for us on your favorite podcast app for the audio feed. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time in the collaboration space. For more information, visit avispl.com/Epson.